Thank you. I'm excited to be here with all of you today to share my perspective and experience with building a UX culture. Let me start with a little bit about me. For the last 15 plus years, I've had the pleasure of leading and building UX teams from the ground up, first in the financial services industry and now in the legal space. I've learned a lot during that time, and I hope some of what I've learned will also help you. So let me start with a little something like this. Have you ever felt like this? Like you're constantly beating your head against the brick wall, but not really making much progress chipping away at it? My guess is that I'm not alone. Or how about hear things like this? Our customers already told us what they want. Or on the flip side, we already know what our customers want, so why do we need to bother asking? Or how about the infamous, let's just make it pretty or pop?
I'm hearing, yep, I'm hearing some errors with this. I'm going to see if I can fix that. We're doing, just for a couple of the speakers, Lisa in particular had a little concern about being able to be properly seen. Sorry, I'm talking and doing this at once. She had a little concern about the connection. These things happen. And so we set her up with, just a moment, we set her up to, thanks for your patience, set her up to have a recording for this part. She is going to take questions live, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm hearing people, yeah, I'm seeing more of that. So you should see, hopefully this is working now, and if I clear all this stuff
So
out.
there's some, yeah, you're moving it. There's something in the way. That's it.
Got it now?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why that was happening. Thanks for your patience. These hiccups happen, and we'll try that again, starting from just, yeah, should work. All right, here we go.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with all of you today to share my perspective and experience with building a UX culture. Let me start with a little bit about me. For the last 15 plus years, I've had the pleasure of leading and building UX teams from the ground up, first in the financial services industry and now in the legal space. I've learned a lot during that time, and I hope some of what I've learned will also help you. So let me start with a little something like this. Have you ever felt like this? Like you're constantly beating your head against the brick wall, but not really making much progress chipping away at it? My guess is that I'm not alone. Or how about hear things like this? Our customers already told us what they want. Or on the flip side, we already know what our customers want, so why do we need to bother asking? Or how about the infamous, let's just make it pretty or pop? Or what about technology? Our technology stack doesn't support something like that. We can only do this. And of course, if we had another 6 months, sure, we could do that. We could do anything. Or what about, we already committed to getting these features out this year? And last but not least, the infamous, all of our competitors do it that way. And of course, if our competitors are doing it that way, then it must be right, right? So in my experience, when bringing UX into an established organization, it comes with quite a few challenges, especially when folks have ingrained processes or mindsets. So where should you start? Well, before you work on breaking through a brick wall, a plan to lead and guide immersing UX into your organizational culture is a good start. I'm going to walk you through a few areas that, through my experience, I feel are important to consider. I'd say the first critical factor is buy-in, ultimately across all levels of the organization. But if you don't have it from the top, you'll be facing more of a stone wall than a brick wall. Don't only tell executives, but show them results and how they tie back into business objectives. I'd also like to note that when I say from the executive level, ensure you have it not only from your direct reporting line, but senior leadership across teams and departments. This is key in further immersing and aligning leadership across your organization to the benefits UX can bring. Having a plan and approach is also key. Do you have a vision, a mission on how you plan to get there? What are you trying to accomplish in your UX journey? For example, are you looking to reduce calls to the call center, increase customer loyalty, retention, and/or sales, or perhaps increase site conversions? It's a good idea to have your UX vision and mission posted and shared with others so they know what you are trying to accomplish. How about principles? What I mean by that is a set of guidelines and standards that you will want to follow and your team and others. Things like always putting the user's needs first, designing for consistency, adding value, not features, These are just a few of our UX principles. Let me also add that I did a workshop with a cross-functional group of leaders where we did an exercise to determine what we wanted our principles to be. We gathered in a room, I put everyone in small teams and provided a sampling of principles that they could choose from. And I also provided index cards to create their own if there were others that they felt were more important. We then voted to determine what we wanted ours ultimately to be. It was a great way to collaborate and make others feel a part of the process, which, by the way, helps immensely in gaining buy-in. Do you have a methodology, a framework, or a design process that you will work by? What's in your toolbox? What I mean by this is, do you have tools outlined that you will use for your research and analysis? Do you have a framework in place of what to do, questions to ask in a research interview, or how to run a usability test, or the type of tools you may need to do those things? I have used a wide variety of different tools, all the way from things like, of course, Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, outside of doing in-person research and usability testing. I've also outsourced to a third party as well for some of that usability testing, and additionally use software like usertesting.com and Usability Hub. All of these have been effective for me, and I encourage you to have something in place to get you started. Another important area is metrics. Basically, what are your measurements of success? This one isn't always easy to do. You can use things like NPS, task completion times, error rates, SUS, site conversions, or whatever really is pertinent to your business. Something that we are currently working on with our partners at HFI are efficiency metrics. This will give us a good baseline foundation on things like task times, which is one of the many important things that is important to our users. I encourage you to find that what resonates for you and your business. Just remember to think about how the metrics you're gathering tie back to the business and the bottom line. Lastly, and probably most importantly, UX advocates, others in your organization that will be evangelists for you. Have you been able to get others tooting your horn and excited about the work you're doing? Maybe some of the stakeholders you've worked with, or folks within your project team, or other colleagues. How about executives? I've been fortunate enough to not only have support at the team level, but also from senior leadership. It goes a long way when you have champions at that level. Solving problems and showing the impacts to the business will go a long way in gaining those advocates. So to recap, the core areas of creating a UX culture strategy are buy-in, having a plan, principles, a methodology, metrics, and advocates. Now that we have our strategy in place, let's talk about ways to overcome the resistance that have worked for me. Education, what UX is, and in a lot of instances, what it isn't, as I'm quite sure a few of you can relate. Be clear on how it fits and clearing up misconceptions on it being synonymous with UI or painting a pretty picture, which I'm sure for. You can do this in several ways using reference materials like UX sites, blogs, white papers, any talks that you can find from industry experts like our fine folks here at HFI, or through something I've implemented that has been well received, what we call a UX hangout. We hold these bi-weekly where we not only share the latest designs, but the work we do to get there. For example, we not only review results of a usability test, but also the test itself and walking through it before we have user research sessions. This has proven to be quite insightful for folks, as well as how we go about doing our research interviews and questions we ask. This has helped immensely in giving others a solid understanding of the intricacies involved in the work we do. For our UX Hangouts, we basically invite anyone and everyone across the organization to attend. The groups you're seeing here usually have one or more folks in attendance, which we average about 15 or so each meetup. We have been doing these for about a year now and have heard a lot of great feedback. Things like, this is a highlight of my week. I love the hands-on education. Wow, this is impressive. Even as simple as great working session. If you don't have something like this in place already, I encourage you to think about it. You will not be disappointed with the results. What about collaboration? Collaborating and bringing folks in together from varying departments and teams early and often to share and collaborate is quite important. We here hold sessions twice weekly with our product and development teams to review and discuss designs. And we also meet frequently with our sales engineering, our customer support teams, our marketing teams, on the insights and knowledge that they have gained through their direct contact with customers. Remember, it is best to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Empathy for stakeholders is also super important. You need to ease their fear and uncertainty by being patient and understanding while others get to know how UX fits into their world and what changes that means for them. Building trust and having compassion for others is key in the journey to building a culture of UX within your organization. Speaking from experience, I know it's not always easy to do. It may not seem fair that our work and expertise isn't always taken at face value. I think it's because of that fear of the unknown, since even though it has been around a while, it is still fairly new in most organizations. Having empathy for stakeholders really will go a long way. Align to stakeholder goals. Show how it can benefit others personally in their role by keeping their goals top of mind, and how what you and the team are doing and have solved problems that matter the most to them, or that will maybe make their lives easier. Maybe it's freeing up their time by cutting down on customer related issues they get so that they can focus their efforts elsewhere. Whatever it is, will be helpful to find something that will have a positive impact on their work directly. It will speak volumes and go a long way. Tie it to business vision and goals. Ensure your UX vision and mission align to the big picture and broader business goals and objectives. Don't just tell colleagues what it is, show it in action, maybe through a smaller project, and just share those results. Even better, show how it helps the business with sales, increasing market share, reducing attrition, whatever those things are that are most important to your business. Lastly, user engagement from customers and prospects. Make users and customers a part of the process, bringing their voice in as much as possible early and often through things like testing, interviews, surveys, and that type of thing. To recap, the core areas to overcome resistance that have worked for me are education, collaboration, empathy for our stakeholders, aligning to stakeholder goals, tying things back to the business, and of course, user engagement. In closing, the most important thing I think you should take away or remember is making sure others feel like they are a part of the journey and process and that their voice and expertise counts, not by asking them to design things, but by hearing their needs. You can do this by having them assist in things like providing scenarios, tasks for usability test, or having them listen in on research interviews so they get a better sense and feel for it. And again, always, always, always share, share, share. Share what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the impact and the results. Remember, you won't be able to change the culture of your organization in a day or a week or even a month. It's a journey that takes time. I hope what I have shared with you today on building a UX culture strategy and ways to overcome resistance will be helpful to you in breaking any barriers and building bridges within your organization. I'd like to also close with the fact that I have my LinkedIn here, and if any of you guys would like to connect in the future, I'd be happy to have a chat with you offline. Thank you.
All right. And now we'll take questions from Lisa. Opening that up now, and I see none of these have been upvoted yet, so take a quick peek at the the questions and see if any of them get your attention. But short of that, I will. And since I couldn't, oh, there we go. Okay, great. So let's see. How about this one? Jennifer Hughes asks, Lisa, can you speak more on the UX Hangout?
Yeah. So the UX Hangout, I think, is probably one of the most beneficial things across the board that we've done. It's just something that we were kind of thinking like, how could we engage more people into what we're doing? How can we kind of put the word out more? I was seeing some of the comments in the chat, you know, about education and things like that. And you guys are exactly right. Just giving education is not something that's going to in itself be enough. And so, you know, thinking about what are some of those things that you can do and how can we maybe like just garner more interest and excitement about UX. You know, coming into the world that I'm in now in the legal space, this was something new for this company. They didn't have a UX team, so starting it from the ground up, getting folks to really understand again what UX is and isn't, you know, it has been quite challenging and definitely a journey. So came up with the idea of the Hangouts to kind of talk about a little bit of everything and just kind of have people pop in, you know, come in when you can. I record them, I send those recordings out to folks. And, you know, it has been a very valuable tool in getting folks really excited and getting them even more engaged and wanting to learn more and wanting to do more once they realize what it is that we're trying to accomplish. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Lisa. That's great. Let's look at another of these. Here, so Daniel Severns asks, how might you suggest bringing members of the business along the user testing journey while most tests are currently being done remote, as remote testing during the pandemic, of course?
That's actually it's probably the best time to bring folks in because you can have them on listen in, and we do that a lot here at our company. We have folks dialing in and listen only mode, so they're there, they get to experience it firsthand, they get to hear you know, what's going on. We definitely let our users know, you know, that we have folks on the phone, what they're going to be doing, what they're there for, you know, what the different roles are, just to give them ease too, because you don't want to have too many people on a call and have, you know, a firing range type thing going where you have, you know, 5 folks to the one user and make them nervous. So typically we'll invite maybe 1 or 2 people, again, have them just sit in silent mode. We ask that they don't speak. We ask that they just kind of take it all in. And that's also proved to be very effective. And it really helps. And it really helps them to understand, you know, things that they maybe thought themselves before, and it validates some things for them. So it's very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, your video is frozen, by the way, Lisa.
Oh, can you see me?
If you want to maybe try unsharing video and sharing again.
I'm seeing the video moving.
Oh, it's
Can
so
you see
something's
me?
broken on my end now.
Yeah,
No worries.
Can you see me?
yeah.
As long
No,
as you
we
guys can see her.
great.
All right.
Oh,
Uh,
I think it went off.
sorry,
Now
I
you
know
can
I had.
talk.
Okay, you're back for me. Yeah, sorry, she turned it off for a moment, but oh yeah, other people are seeing it frozen too sometimes. Well, so, but it's working. All right. So the next question. So there's a lot of talk going on about Google making usability a direct factor to determine site rankings and search engine optimization. In addition to the already established site metrics, do you have any thoughts on this? What kind of standard usability metrics do you think would be defined for all sites?
And that's a good question, and it's a pretty tough question that I don't think I can fully capably answer in terms of, you know, something as a baseline foundation for all sites. The world that I came from prior to the legal space, I did delve a little bit more into websites, mobile apps, and all of that, but there were not really any particular standard set of metrics that we could, you know, define again. And that's why I mentioned earlier on in my talk that it's really finding those things that are more important to you and what your business, I think, you know, the things that are critical to the bottom line, the things that are critical to executives, those are the things that are going to probably resonate more than just having a certain set of standards, because that certain set of standards may not be something that your organization cares about. And so I think I would highly encourage you to make sure that you delve a little bit more deeper into your organization, what their goals are, what their vision, their mission, what we're trying to accomplish and effectuate change on, and have that as your starting point for your metrics.
Great, Lisa. Do you want to talk at all about kind of the different, like the UX metrics versus the non-UX metrics? Because that question is talking about some of the non-UX metrics about things like search engine optimization and some things in that direction. But sometimes we think about different kinds of metrics. I don't know if that's on your mind, Lisa. I know it's on my mind sometimes.
So can you kind of
Oh yeah,
clarify,
sorry. I
what
mean,
you're,
we've chatted a little bit before, Lisa, about things like how you have, business metrics about the number of purchases and things like that. That's always important, but then things that are more specific to UX, doing expert reviews and scorecards and things like that. It may not be on your mind very much right now, Lisa. I don't mean to derail things.
no,
I
no,
just
that's
thought I'd
okay.
see if it's a thing you wanted to speak to, but there were a bunch of other questions. So maybe we should, I feel like you answered that really well. Yeah, so another of these questions, and I mean, this is kind of asking for like a resource, but maybe you can point people to it since several people upvoted this. Tracy asks, she says she'd love a list of principles that you're using.
Yeah, what I can
that's
do there, I can definitely share with you guys. There are some great resources and sites out there that'll give you almost any and every company's principles. And I'll find that link. I have it saved somewhere in my favorites, so I can send that link and pass it on to the HFI team to send out with their recording and information. But there are some great resources, and it actually also goes a step further and tells you how to run a workshop. So if you want to do one of these workshops that similar to the one that I did, it'll give you information and details on what to do, how to go about doing it, and again, there's a good set and a good guidelines and things on how many you should have. When is it too many? You know, when is it too less, and things like that. So I'll definitely take a note and pass that along to the team.
Awesome. Yeah, if you have anything like that you want to, like, for instance, drop in the chat, I'm sure people would appreciate.
Yeah, if I find
that.
it as the day goes on, I can drop it there too.
Looks like we still have room for maybe one or two more questions. I did see earlier one or two people trying to put questions in the chat box. And so we're using the Q&A box for the questions, guys. And we're using the upvoting to help guide it. So the next one, which has a couple of upvotes, this is from Ashley. She asks, what are some of the ways you've discussed what UX is or isn't? What are some common misconceptions you've heard about what UX is or isn't?
I think the biggest thing, and as I mentioned before, I think you all can probably agree, you know, it's interesting, the first, you know, day coming into the company that I am at now, it was all about, oh, can you take a look at this? What do you think about, you know, what should we do different, in terms of really just kind of like making it more visually appealing to folks. So I think a lot of times, you know, it's more about the visual aspects and visual components, and, you know, everyone's like working away doing their thing, and it's like, oh, well, now we got to bring you guys in to kind of, you know, to kind of add the color and add those things, and so, you know, a lot of what I've tried to do there, again, as I mentioned, is really, you know, not really trying too hard to hone in on the education piece, because again, the more you just want to try to educate people on certain things, if they don't find value in what's in it for me, then they could really care less about it, you know, to be honest. So it's, you know, over time kind of showing more, not necessarily just saying what it is and what it isn't, but really showing it through the work that we're doing in terms of all of the different things, you know, that came. So like in the Hangouts, for example, you know, not just showing a design, but what are those components and pieces and all of the hard work that went into that actual piece of work. And so I think that has proven to be the most effective in terms of trying to share what it is and what it isn't. It's more of like showing it, not just kind of telling you or pointing you to a location to say, go read this, and, you know, go read what this expert said about what these things are. So showing is always very valuable thing to do.
That's awesome, Lisa. Let's see, as we still have time for maybe one or two more. I see a couple of questions here about kind of UX championship and executive engagement. There's one here that is, how do you keep executives engaged?
So that's a good question. I think, again, I think one of the things that I've it's been really a blessing for me is having that at our leadership level in the company that I'm in now. Um, you know, they're very engaged even from the get-go, from even before me coming in, you know, wanting to do something like this. So that was a plus in the beginning. But to keep that engagement going, I hold steering committee meetings with executives, and it's not just my direct leadership executive that we have in that session. You know, part of what I mentioned before about that engagement is also bringing in other executives from other areas and groups, and I find that to be more effective as well. I try to hold sessions as best we can monthly. Like most of the time, it ends up being quarterly. But trying to hold sessions not only to give them updates on what we're doing, but also be very frank and honest about challenges and things of that nature. I find that if if you try to hold back because they are at a certain level and you might get a little nervous and worried, I encourage you to speak your mind and to be honest and really talk about the things that are roadblocks and challenges. And they do appreciate that. They do appreciate the frankness and you know, and if they are really championing what you're doing, they will support and help you get to where you want to be.
Awesome. That's great, Lisa. Maybe one last one. I think this is interesting. So I'm going to mispronounce this. Nicholas asks, how should we choose UX champions? Do they have to be UX practitioners, or is it any person with the will to defend the customer voice? Should they be some power role person?
I think it's a combination of all. It's not just, you know, a power person like an executive. It's also the person, well, I would say sitting next to you, but it may not be your spouse, maybe sitting next to you right now at home. So, but, you know, even your colleagues, folks on your project team, you know, folks in other areas of the organization, you know, so again, it's not just any one particular type of person or folks within your company that you should focus on. It's really anyone and everyone, which again, I think the Hangouts are a good way to bring a lot of those people together. And even if it's just, you know, a person from, you know, a certain group within your company or department, you know, by the nature of them coming in, getting excited about it, they can then go back and talk to others within their department. And then by the time you know it, you have a lot more engagement. You have folks asking, hey, can you come in, talk to our group? You know, we can't make it maybe to your Hangout sessions. Can you come in and give us, you know, a little bit of intel and information on what's going on? And so it's really been helpful.
Great. All right. Thanks again, Lisa. Please give Lisa a warm thank you in the chat box, as we can't hear your applause. That was fantastic.